Cleaning is one of those jobs around the brewery that you just have to do and you just have to stay on top of. We've already done a video on cleaning. I think it was our very first video, but since then the brewery's expanded, the brewing has expanded, the number of kegs has expanded. There's a lot more to clean now, so I've bought myself the Kegland Bucket Blaster. This promises to make cleaning a much simpler job, a much easier job. So the first thing I'm going to do is pull this down, take a look at it, see what's in there, get it set up. The second part is me pulling my equipment down. So I'm going to show you how I service my kegs. I like to do this at the start of every season, so every 3 months. In between, I'll just clean the keg. I won't pull the posts off. I won't do any maintenance on them. I'll clean the keg, sanitize it, refill it. But once a quarter, I like to pull the posts apart, pull the poppet valves out, check all the seals and O-rings and things like that, make sure that they're not worn, make sure that there's no damage, make sure that things are as they should be. And to do that, I've bought a whole bunch of new parts. Most of the kegs that I'm cleaning today are recently purchased, they're second-hand, so I want to go through them really carefully, take a look at them, make sure that there's no worn O-rings or seals or anything like that. Give them a good scrub and get them ready for the first batch of beer. And we've got 3 beers that are ready for packaging. But let's unbox this. So it comes in a sealed bucket. These seals are fairly easy, although one that I recently took off actually took right back to the lip there. This one seems to be doing the proper job, and you see I've put a towel down because we are going to be using this today. And I'm going to be doing it inside because it's a bit cold and rainy and wet outside today. Here we go. Okay, so what it comes with, that's the stand that you put your fermenter or keg on. You need some scissors for that. There's a few more bits and pieces in here. A little sticker that you can put on the outside to measure how much liquid you've got in your bucket. And your plumbing bits and pieces. This is the pump. Looks like a fairly standard aquarium type fish pump. Put that on your stand. Plugs in. Some EVA barrier. There we go. That now identifies the bucket. I don't want it being accidentally used for dog water or something like that. Now, our plumbing comes with everything we need. So it looks fairly logical. So I'm also going to use some plumber's tape. Even though this is sitting in a bucket and it doesn't really matter if it leaks because it's self-contained. If you get a leak, it means you're not getting the most effective pressure. Okay, so I'm doing a full assembly. If you're only going to be doing your fermenters, if you're not going to be cleaning kegs, then you don't need that T-piece and you don't need any of this. All you need is that tube and the top to give you a bit of pressure. But I'm going to be cleaning a lot of kegs with this, so I'm going to put the rest of these bits on, including that T-piece. Handy dandy little EVA barrier cutter. Okay, now to hook up the EVA barrier. cutter. Now you don't need an exceedingly long piece coming out there. So that goes into the T-piece. And then into this outlet. The rest of the EVA barrier, cut in two. One into each disconnect. And then they plug into either side of the T-piece. And there we have it, ready to go. So this just goes into the bucket. Your fermenter or your keg sits on top. Next thing I need to do is fill this. I'm probably going to put 5 litres of water in here to start with, and an appropriate amount of sodium bicarbonate. I'll pre-mix that up in a small amount of water just to dissolve it all so that when it goes in there it's not sitting in granules on the bottom. And then we're ready to start bucket blasting. So today's job is to clean all of these little 6 litre kegs, this 5 litre keg, and 7 Corny Kegs. Now I don't know if you'll be able to see from there, but some of these Corny Kegs have unusual posts on them. So they will all be getting replaced. Anything that looks damaged or worn will be getting replaced. I'll give the Corny Kegs a good scrub as well on the outside with a scourer, just to get rid of some of the tape. Now I've got a bucket here with some spare stuff in it, some spare poppets and springs in case I need to replace any of them, spare post O-rings, dip tube O-rings. So these are the ones that go under the dip tube, well, between the dip tube and the keg. They will all get replaced today. So all of them, whether or not I think they need it, I'll get them replaced. I've also got spare gas and liquid posts. I've put 5 litres of water in here. Do not turn it on before you've got something on top of it. The water that comes out of here will hit the ceiling. Ask me how I know. Some of these look a bit sort of worse for wear. Everything that comes off is going into a bath. Oh, that's the other thing I've got. O-rings, lid O-rings. Some of these I noticed when I did my first cleaning attempt on them were leaking. I'm just going to replace all of those lid O-rings just to be on the safe side. So there's a bit of a job ahead of us. I've got a bucket of sodium bicarbonate. This is the cleaning solution that I use. Sodium bicarbonate does a really good job. It's what you get in oxy-action. When it breaks down into sodium, which is just a salt, and hydrogen peroxide. Hydrogen peroxide then breaks down into hydrogen, and that's where you get bubbles from, and also water. So what you end up with is fairly neutral. You can tip it down the sink safely. It's not going to poison the garden if you tip it on the garden. Hi, it's Editing Craig here. The best, most effective way I found to clean multiple kegs at a time is to strip them all down at once and put all their parts into the bath. And then once everything is nice and clean, you put your first keg back together, put it on the bucket blaster and clean it while you put the next keg together to go onto the blaster. That gives you about 5 minutes per keg of time on the blaster, and that turned out to be way more than enough. Even the dirtiest keg, which had had the hazy IPA in it and hadn't been cleaned out properly, was clean in that 5 minutes. It really is a very effective cleaning mechanism. So those corny kegs don't quite sit nicely on top there. They want to fall off and there's quite a lot of splashing going on. I only got the small one. I'm going to try the corny kegs in this one and see how they go. They should do a bit better. But I've got to rinse this out and then it's time to replace the water in there anyway, especially after that last one. We're on to our last keg here, so I'll wrap this up. What do I think of the bucket blaster? Well, it's an incredible time saver as well as an incredible water saver. I've done 7 corny kegs, 4 6-litre kegs and the 5-litre keg, all with 15 litres of water. Normally, when I'm cleaning these things, I'll fill them up with warm water from the laundry. So that's 19 litres for each keg to start with. And then I'll use, I think it's 20 grams of sodium percarbonate, 30 grams per 10 litres. So that would be 60 grams of sodium percarbonate per keg. So I'm going to save a lot on sodium percarbonate as well, because I've used 45 grams to clean all of this equipment. Hey, it's Editing Craig again. It looks like my mic battery ran out right at the very end of recording here. But what I'm saying is that the bucket blaster is going to save me on time. It's going to save me on money. It's going to save me on water. I don't have to use nearly as much water to clean all of these kegs as I would have had to have used with my previous sort of cleaning regime. It's going to save me money because I'm not going to be using nearly as much sodium percarbonate. I was going through one of these, I think it's 5 kilo bottles of sodium percarbonate every 3 or 4 months. But by reducing the amount of perc that I need to use, I'm probably going to make this one last a year. That's great. Now, as we always ask you, the only thing we're asking you to do to support the channel at the moment is to click the subscribe button if you haven't already subscribed, and also the notification bell so that you find out when we've got new episodes coming out. Also like to ask you to give us a big thumbs up so that Google knows that the content you've just seen is valuable and it gets it out there to more people. It raises us up in the algorithm. Anyway, as we say, enjoy the hobby, but drink responsibly. Cheers.